So, good morning, all. Today, we will start with a new topic, remote logging and electronic mail. In the previous lecture, we have studied different types of protocol. So, the further we are going to study remote logging and electronic mail. So, before going to the lecture, as usual, our daily habits with the good thoughts. So, a good leader is a person who takes a little more than his share of the blame and little less than his share of the credit. It is a John Maxwell. It is the author of the America, and he has written very nice thought. So, a good leader is a person who takes a little more than his share of the blame. So, you can take the example of MS Dhoni. He has taken the very good example, or he set the very good example in front of us. When he lose the match, he come two steps ahead of the team, so he can, it is a sign that everything he is taking his blame. But when India win the World Cup, and he has given the World Cup to the in hand of the newcomers, so he has giving the credit to the newcomers. So that is the meaning of this thought. So back to the work. So remote logging, so it would be impossible to write a specific client server program for each demand. The better solution is a general purpose client server program that lets a user access any application program on a remote computer. Now I want to access your computer, which is at very far away from me, and I want to access the data from that computer. For that purpose, we are going for a remote logging. Means, suppose I am sitting at Pune and you are sitting in Mumbai, okay, and I am going to access your PC from Pune. So, for that purpose, we are going to learn the two things, that is Telnet and SSH. So, first we are going to learn the telnet. So what happened in the telnet? Before going to the telnet, I will explain you what is exactly it. It would be impossible to write a specific client server program for each demand. Now when you want to access the remote, if you want to take a remote access of the computer from the remote place, now there should be a one program, you can say it as a client program. Now when there will be, when you want to access that PC, then that client program will run. Now it is not possible to write an individual client program or server program and on individual PCs. Okay, suppose I want to access your PC, so I will write my own program. Suppose you want to access, you will write the another program. So it is not possible. For that purpose, what we can done, we have write the common program for all the servers and all the clients. So if you want to run, if you want to take a remote access, you can run that client program or you can run that server program. So there is a common program. Okay, so what is the meaning of this sentence? So we are going to learn the telnet. So telnet is a general purpose client server application program or remote virtual terminal on a server, supports multiple VTs. VT is nothing but virtual terminal. So telnet is a general purpose client server application program. Okay, it is run on each and every PC. Then I will tell you how to run this program in your PC. So that is very simple example of telnet. So it is in a character mode. So client send, server send the message to the client, go ahead. Then again client send the server, do suppress and go ahead. Then again from server to client, will suppress, go ahead. Then client send the server, do echo, server again reply with a will echo, and then you can put your login and password. Okay, so before going to the next slide, I want to tell you that suppose how you can run or how you can run that telnet program in your PC. So you can go in a control panel. In control panel there is a program and features. Okay, so you can go into the that option. So you can click in the programs, then you will open turn on Windows on or off. Okay, turn a Windows on and off. You click that, on that they will find the client program. Okay, so you sorry, telnet client. So you just click the checkbox of telnet client, then you will on the client program on, or you will run the client program, telnet program on your PC. So you can take the remote access of any PC surrounding of you. Now some common features of the telnet. So telnet is a single TCP connection to port 23. So when you are going to access any remote computer from here, so you have to use the port number 23. So why we are using this telnet? Okay, suppose I want to take a remote access of any PC from, I want to share some folders, or I want to delete, or I want to access some folders from that computer. For that purpose I can use the telnet. As well as, suppose in the previous days what happened, suppose one of the central PC which is having very big RAM, suppose 6 GB of RAM and 1 TB of hard disk, and my laptop is not having that much RAM. So what happened, you can take the telnet access of that PC and you can virtually run the program. So likewise, I have a MATLAB software. For example, I have a MATLAB software, and in that MATLAB software, that software is installed and that a central PC, that one PC, okay, that I am going to take a remote access on that PC which is having the 6 GB of RAM and 1 TB of hard disk. I will run that software on that MATLAB on that PC, and I am sitting at somewhere else. So I will take the remote access of that PC and I will run the MATLAB software on that PC by using the telnet connection. So I am sitting here, and by taking the remote access I will run that MATLAB software, and I can access that software and I can run the program. Why? Because I am not having that much RAM in my laptop. I am not having that much RAM, so I will run that program from their PC. So this is what telnet use. Now what happened? Telnet is a connection is unencrypted. Telnet connection is unencrypted means what? Whatever the username or password you can put, or you can fill, that username and password can be hacked by any other person. Okay, suppose I am a hacker and you are taking the telnet access, so I can access your data files, or even I can access your usernames and passwords. Okay, so whenever the data is sending through that PC, or you can take the remote access, so data is not encrypted. Okay, so connection is unencrypted. So easy for the eavesdropper, means suppose I am a hacker, so I can easily access your data. So in most cases, telnet is a remote terminal. Each character is transmitted in a separated packets, obviously. Now for that purpose, now the telnets having some disadvantages. So overcome to these disadvantages, we are going for a SSH login. Okay, that is further where I am going to explain you. Now the telnet is telnet that was found, or we are started using in a 1960 almost, when internet was used first time. Okay, so that time we are going to use this telnet. So that time they is not having that much advanced features. So for that purpose, in the previous in the 1960 or afterwards, we are using the telnet. So right now, nowadays no one using the telnets. Telnets can also use for taking the remote access of switches and the routers also. Okay, hubs and routers, you can take the using telnet, you can take the remote access of those switch routers also. Now there are some telnet commands. So telnet longwood eecs.ucf.ug. So you can access the telnet by using the commands. Now you will ask the question, where I will type this command. Okay, that I will told you, when you run the command client program or telnet client on your PC, then you simply go in a command prompt. Okay, you can go in a command prompt and you just type telnet and this command longwood dot, so that website will get open. Suppose if you want to play the chess on a telnet, you just type telnet freechess.org. Okay, so simply there a chess game will be open, so you can just put your login and password and you will play the game. Okay, so this is how you can access the telnet. So there is not having the GUI. In older days, no one is going to build the GUI, so you can directly put the command in a command prompt, so you can access the telnet. So this is how telnet commands are. Now next is the SSH shell. Now I told you, in the telnet there will be not having a encrypted, or there will be a unencrypted messages you can go through the telnet. For overcoming these disadvantages, we are now using the SSH secure shell. Now replacement of a old unsecure telnet program. Okay, so replacement of a old unsecure telnet program. So telnet is unsecure. Both ends authenticate with each other. Both ends authenticate with each other means I will give a very simple example in the coming time. Rely on a public key cryptography. We will introduce PK in a last chapter. So in maybe in a digital communication, you learn the public key. Now what is this public key and cryptography? I will tell you. Suppose A and B, there are two persons. A and B, there are two persons. Now A want to send the B 1 lakh of rupees with the full of bag. Okay. Now there will be A called the C and asked, take this bag and go to the B and give to the B. Now C has taken this bag and went to the B, but in the way middle he has taken out of the 50,000 rupees from the bag, and then remaining he is given to the B. So A and B he has given, but there will be a loss of money. So similarly there is a loss of data. Suppose I will sending one message from A to B and there will be no secure connection, so there will be some hacker will come and he will access your data. So that is what happened in a telnet. But now what happened in a SSH? In a SSH, same example we are taking. A and B, A want to send money to B, okay, through C. Now what happened? A is having one key and B is also having the key. Okay, so one key. Now that A person has locked the bag of 1 lakh rupees and given to the C. Now C cannot access this bag, or he cannot open this bag. Now he can easily, or he can simply give to the B, because B is also having the same key which is having the key with A. So that is nothing but we can say the public key. Suppose there is a server which is having the key, all clients are also having that same key. So all clients and server can open that, or key means nothing but we can say one of the code. Okay, so that he can access this key. So in middle hackers cannot access your data. Okay, so this is what the advantages of the secure shell. So all communication messages are encrypted. Obviously SSH is used also as a secure tunneling channel for other applications. Like if I want to transfer a file, so that file is also a transfer through the secure manner. Suppose port forwarding or virtual private networks, all the information which is passing through the tunnel, that will be a very secure. So in a secure shell you can transmitting the data in a secure manner. So under Unix machine, the hidden directory.ssh save all configuration files. Okay, so most of the time this SSH shell is used in Unix, okay, or a Linux. So Linux operating system. So there is one extension .ssh. There is one file which is saving the all configuration. There is a known underscore host save public key of all previous connected SSH servers. Okay, so there is one file, he can save all public keys. So any data will come, so that you will open that data. So attackers cannot impersonate as known SSH server anymore. Okay, have a trust what you get in the first connection attempt. Okay, so this is how the some advantages of the secure shell. Now SSH programs and uses. Now I told you telnet there will be no GUI to access the PC. So simply you can open the command prompt and you can give the IP address and then you can access the other PCs. But in a SSH there will be one kind of software, you can say the PuTTY. Okay, you can open that software. In that software you can put the IP address and there will be the port number 22. So it is a TCP connection. TCP connection. It says use the TCP connection with the port number 22. So there is a provision to put the port number. So you can put the port number 22 and write the. So it is the fix, and you can write the IP address. So you can get connected to the remote PC. So it required so there is a login method. So it requires the passwords, private key kept on client and public key stored on a server. Okay, so this is, I will explain you later in coming chapters what is the private key and public key. So this is how the secure shell. Now we are going through the electronics mail. So one of the most popular internet service is the electronics mail. The designer of an internet probably never imagined the popularity of the application program. Its architecture consists of several components that we discuss in this chapter. Okay, so electronic mail, it is very simple. How exactly, suppose I'm sending the mail, we are all know very general, there everyone can send the mails, but how exactly mail can be sent? So there are different protocols. If you are a technical person, can understand how the mail can be sent. So there are we are going to discuss these two topics, architecture and user agent. So it is very simple. In a first scenario, you can see the Alice want to send the mail to the Bob. Now how it can be? So there is a mail user agent. Okay, mail user agent means suppose the Gmail or other are nothing but the mail user agent. Now there is one UA is a user agent. Suppose Alice want to send the mail to the Bob. So both are in a same network. So they simply send the mail to the system. So how exactly this system is, that we are going to I will going to explain in the next slide. Okay, when a sender and receiver of an email are on a same network, we need only two user agents. These are nothing but Outlook Express, Netscape, Messengers, Mozilla Thunderbird, Eudora, Foxmail, and so many. So both are in a same network. Then there will be a sender and receiver can use only two user agents. Okay. So now there is another scenario when the sender and the receiver of an email are on a different system, like a Wikipedia. It shows a very good example. I will explain you. Now you can see here. Now again, this Alice mail user agent, maybe it can be in a GUI. So if you want to send a mail to the Bob, now these are in a different. Now these are in a different network. So we know, so from the bob@bobb.org, from alice@a.org, so he is sending the mail. So what happened exactly? Through the SMTP, simple mail transport protocol, it will give to the SMTP protocol. Then this SMTP protocol first find the DNS server. So what is the DNS server? So where the IP addresses and the name of the mail, or it can be a Gmail, Yahoo, it can be stored on that DNS server. So it find, suppose you write a gmail.com, yahoo.com, so it will go to that particular DNS server and it will give the IP address. Then it will return the IP address. Okay. Now this IP address will assign to the mx.b.org. Okay. So now this is one of the server, and all this done through the SMTP protocol, and then this server goes the message to the, or send the mail to the Bob's PC or Bob's mail user agent. So this is how exactly the mail get transfer. Okay. So now some example of command driven user agents are Mail, Pine, and ELME. These are nothing but the Unix. You can use in a Unix also. Some example on GUI based user agents like Eudora, Outlook, and Netscape. These are nothing but the GUI based user agents. So you can simply write the mail, or you can type the mail in that user or in that GUI. Now here I have given the very good example or difference between the postal mail and electronic mail. So in a postal mail, you simply write on your front page, you can write the sender's address and receiver's address, and simply you can write your address, subject, dear, and your truly, sincerely, whatever. But in electronics mail, they are having some different criteria, okay, or different method. So first there is envelope. Envelope means from and to. You can see if you open a Gmail, you can see in the top there will be a from and to. From is where you want to send this message, and who is sending this message is come in a to. Then there will be header. Header is nothing but again the date, subject, from, and to. Then there will be exactly the body of the mail. So dear, whatever, and you can end with some matters. You can end your mail and you can send it. This is how the format of an email, that is electronic mail. Now how exactly the email address? So email address, suppose my email address is deepakdange20@gmail.com. So this just a minute. So this is how the local port. So deepakdange20, it is nothing but a local port, and this domain name is, suppose I will write Yahoo or Gmail. So this is how the domain name. So gmail.com, yahoo.com, these are nothing but the domain name. So that's how we are going to going on a DNS server to find the IP address of that particular domain name. So sender uses DNS query for MX record on a domain name in order to find the name and IP of the target email server. Okay, and this is a simple SMTP, simple mail transfer protocol. So this is how the sender, just a minute, this is the sender, and sender send the mail, it goes to the mail server. Okay, so mail server may be Yahoo or Gmail. Through it goes to the internet to the receiver's mail server. Suppose I am sitting in Pune and my one of the friend is in America, so it will go first in the Mumbai server, and then it will go through the internet, it goes to the America server, and then it goes to the particular area where he is staying on his PC. So this transaction done through the SMTP protocol, and at the end there will be the POP3 or IMAP4 protocol. There are two protocols can be used to receive the mail. So this is all through the LAN or WAN, so maybe a local area network or a wide area network. So this transaction, this transfer is done by the POP3 or IMAP3, IMAP4 protocol. Now this is all about the electronic mail, remote logging, telnet and SSH. There is one more topic, HTTP. In the previous lectures I already explained you HTTP, so you can go through the previous video and you can check about the HTTP. So this is how the telnet, SSH and electronic mail. So thank you very much for today's lecture. If you have any doubt, you can message me or call me. So thank you very much for today.